I thought I would make a very different type of video or contribution today, and I've decided to share a piece that I was asked to write for this book, Rebel Ma, Women's Stories of Revolution, which has contributions from people all around the world covering a wide range of topics, most importantly featuring Adia Bissan and Nadia from Gaza. Although it's mainly directed at women, my hope is that it might resonate with people across genders and across the world. So I'm sharing in the hope that you might get something from it. So my piece is called Fly, Sister Fly, a time of metamorphosis. To live as awakened, conscious beings in this time of great change and struggle in our world is no mean feat. To choose to keep our hearts opened at a time when we are witnessing unprecedented levels of moral depravity and violence this century, when systems, economic, environmental, societal are collapsing, and it feels that any moment we will be dragged into the abyss, can seem like an impossible task. However, we need to recognize fully embodied that it is the only option we have if we are to survive in any meaningful way, where we retain our humanity and birth a new world in which we can all flourish. Whether by divine providence, choice, or by chance, we sisters are here on this beautiful planet at the time the patriarchy which damages us all, men and women alike, in different ways, is taking its final violent breaths. And we are being asked to become more than we ever thought we could be, of which we are capable. For ours is the task of laying foundations and building a bridge from this world collapsing to the one that will be born from its ashes. Renowned Italian philosopher and political theorist Antonio Gramsci is famous for writing in his prison notebooks the following: "The old world is dying, and a new world struggles to be born. Now is the time of monsters. Those monsters will not die quietly or humbly, as we are witnessing with our own eyes. They will flail and desperately try to grab on to whatever they can, destroying it in the process, because of their arrogance, in the mistaken belief that they can prolong their reign. They fail to understand that their refusal to confront their own wounds, their shadows, is what has cemented their demise. Yes, many of us will no doubt pay the price for this, but that does not mean our lives will have been wasted. The choices we make right now, in every moment, will determine what our personal contribution will be to that future that is coming. We must be disciplined, centered, and hold fast to a vision of a kinder, more compassionate world in which we can all thrive, as well as to the absolute belief that it can come. And with that knowledge, ensure that the legacy we will leave for our descendants is one that they will find joy, inspiration, and resource in. We are being asked to meet this time with courage, remembering that courage is the triumph over fear, not the absence of it. Courage is a process of alchemizing fear into excitement that can propel us and transform ourselves into our own heroes, our own spiritual warriors. We meet this time with integrity, with righteous anger that does not consume, but rather empowers and energizes us, as it is rooted in love and understanding of our connectedness. We hold fast our light, that in turn will help others to do likewise. We have been called to become creators, mothers, and midwives, remembering that birthing is a painful, messy, and at times a dangerous affair, but always worth it. As I reflect on this, I am reminded of the words of one of my heroes of history, Sophie Scholl, a brave German student who set up the White Rose movement with her brother and some friends during the Nazi era, another period of great darkness. They challenge the hateful propaganda by producing and disseminating leaflets appealing to people's humanity. I will share 2 quotes that feel pertinent for this time, and from which I hope you might draw strength as you step forward. The real damage is done by those millions who want to survive, the honest men who just want to be left in peace, those who don't want their little lives disturbed by anything bigger than themselves, those with no sides and no causes, those who won't take measure of their own strength for fear of antagonizing their own weakness, those who don't like to make waves or enemies, those for whom freedom, honor, truth and principles are only literature, those who live small, mate small, die small. It's the reductionist approach to life. If you keep it small, you'll keep it under control. If you don't make any noise, the bogeyman won't find you. But it's all an illusion, because they die too. Those people will roll up their spirits into tiny little balls so as to be safe. Safe from what? Life is always on the edge of death. Narrow streets lead to the same place as wide avenues, and a little candle burns itself out just like a flaming torch does. I choose my own way to burn. The clear invitation in Sophie's words is for us all to step up and choose our way to burn in this world, knowing that we will all find ourselves in the same place eventually anyway. So let us be flaming torches, not flickering candles. Sophie was executed by guillotine on the 22nd of February 1943, a few months before her 22nd birthday. Prison officials are said to have been moved by the courage she displayed as she faced her death, and her final words were noted as the following: "How can we expect righteousness to prevail when there is hardly anyone willing to give themselves up individually to a righteous cause? Such a fine sunny day and I have to go. But what does my death matter if through us thousands of people are awakened and stirred to action?" We have a tendency as humans to put our heroes on pedestals, to idolize them and imagine that somehow they were different to us, had special superhuman powers and qualities. But this is simply not the case. They were flawed, had fears. What set them apart was their commitment to their cause, the cause of humanity, the willingness to be transformed into all they could be. A few years ago, I took a group of my students to our local zoo, which was set up by the famous author and conservationist Gerald Durrell, the first of its kind in the world. When my students visited the butterfly enclosure, we had the privilege of witnessing some of the butterflies breaking out of their chrysalises. The keeper said to my students, "It looks hard, doesn't it? You want to help them." But then explained how without the struggle to break out of their cocoon, they would die, as they would not build the necessary strength in their wings to fly without their struggle to break free. Those words had a profound impact on me, and I have reflected on them a lot in recent months, not just as we bear witness to the most televised genocide in our history, a genocide of a community I lived and monitored human rights in, and with whom I left my heart, but as I face prosecution for the crime in our upside-down world of opposing a genocide. We are living through a new period of the same old witch hunts, orchestrated by the same morally weak men. But we must never forget that we can choose how we will meet their ducking stalls, stakes, and fires, just as Sophie did. We do not need to quake or submit. Recently, in a meditation and a subsequent shamanic healing, I saw myself as the Gorgon Medusa. Initially, I was a little freaked out by this, but then I sat with the image, considering what it meant for me, and I researched its symbolism. Many are unaware of the full story of Medusa, the beautiful maiden who served in Athena's temple before being raped by Poseidon and then punished for the crime inflicted upon her. By being cursed and turned into an ugly Gorgon, people, especially men, feared. who could turn anyone who looked at her into stone. The symbolism of Medusa is of confronting one's fears to drive personal growth and transformation, fierce feminine empowerment, having the strength to embrace our full identity, including a shadow, and to step forward as a protector of the marginalized. I could have not asked for a better archetype to have entered my life at this time, and I feel so honored by her presence, as I find so much strength in it. I choose, as she did, to stand tall, understanding that as those women and others who have walked this path before us, we can either be the protagonist in our lives, who leave steady footprints for those who will follow, or we can be victims, fall to our knees and submit. But the latter always leads to the death of our spirit, the worst kind of death. I understand now that not only is the new world struggling to be birthed, but it can only come into existence if we are willing to transform, to metamorphose, to become everything we were meant to be. It requires us to embrace every aspect of ourselves. For me, that includes, as a long-time activist, to no longer hide the spiritual part of me that emerged in that fateful year of 2020, following a period of depression in which I now understand came online, in order so I could be properly resourced for the battle that is now taking place. It is the willingness and commitment to integrating the light and the shadow, remembering the strength that exists in that shadow, the part we were told we should be ashamed of, or had no place in our polite, civilized society. Sisters, we must remember that there is so much wisdom in the shadow that has been unheard for so long. It should never be feared, but rather honored. We are wild women, and we must take up our space. We must be brave enough to confront our wounds and heal that which needs to be healed, and release that which no longer serves us, including the old self-limiting stories. To be courageous enough to open our hearts, even as we bear witness to the worst crimes that one human can inflict upon another, and to feel the full breadth of emotions in their exquisite pain, and yes, beauty. Why beauty? Because it is only during these periods of great darkness that we get to see the light another holds, as well as to observe our own. It is only during these times that we witness, or indeed make the decision to display, the purest self-sacrificing love that one human can share for another. The love that is expressed by the decision made to risk everything in an attempt to save not just the well-being or life of another, but humanity itself. Without the willingness to have our hearts open, we will never experience the truth that we are but one human family, connected in spirit, and that what we do to other, we allow to be done to ourselves. This toxic, anti-human capitalist system attempts to turn us into unfeeling, unthinking, disconnected automatons, constantly consuming like a cancer. The antidote to that is to move into our hearts and feel, to reach out and to connect to one another, to choose to live heart-centered lives that recognize our shared humanity, to grieve with one another, to hold one another, lift each other up, to rejoice with one another, to love and love and love one another, to rebuild community and return to honoring Mother Earth and the ancient wisdom she teaches. We are all being asked, like the butterfly, to undertake this journey in our own personal ways, to break out of our own individual and collective cocoons, understanding that in reality, it is the only way that we can escape this destructive paradigm and become that which we were always meant to be: evolved, conscious, authentic, fulfilled, connected beings. Yes, our struggle is painful, but in it there is so much liberation. So now to myself, And to you, my dear sisters, fly, sister, fly.